Good day. Imagine Britain as an old house with beautiful bones, creaky floorboards, and a fuse box that sparks every time you turn the kettle on. Everyone agrees it needs fixing. Everyone agrees it cannot go on like this. And yet the man holding the toolbox keeps standing in the hallway, staring at the walls, muttering about how complex rewiring can be. That, in a nutshell, is the growing frustration around Keir Starmer. And, according to commentator Jennifer Powers, it is not just frustration anymore, it is full-blown despair. Quick favour before we pull the covers off the British state. If you're enjoying British Mirror and you want bold, no-nonsense political analysis, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. Over 94% of viewers still have not subscribed. It is free, it takes a second, and it keeps this channel alive. Thank you if you just did. Now back to the show. Jennifer Powers did not mince her words on GB News. She said what many people quietly mutter but rarely say out loud. Keir Starmer, in her view, has failed to grasp the sheer scale of reform needed to fix Britain. Not tweak it, not polish it, reform it, fundamentally, radically. The sort of reform that rattles institutions, offends sacred cows, and makes polite people deeply uncomfortable. And here's the key point. Powers is not arguing from tribal loyalty. She openly admits she may not agree with Labour ideologically, but she wants Britain to succeed. That's important. This is not party point scoring. This is structural frustration, the kind that comes from watching governments promise change, then bounce harmlessly off the system like a rubber ball against a concrete wall. Her argument starts with something explosive, the supposed neutrality of the civil service. For decades, we've treated the civil service as a kind of priesthood, wise, impartial, untouchable, neutral in theory, permanent in practice. Powers says this has gone too far. She argues that civil servants should be under the direct control of ministers, not loosely influenced, not politely guided, directly accountable. Now, before anyone starts clutching their pearls, this is not some wild authoritarian fantasy. In many democracies, senior officials are clearly aligned with the elected government's agenda. They implement policy, not interpret it into oblivion. Powers' point is brutally simple. If ministers are elected to deliver change, but the machinery beneath them quietly resists, delays, or dilutes that change, then democracy itself is weakened. She goes further. Civil servants, she says, should be entrusted with more responsibility, but, and this is the crucial part, they should also be properly held to account. If they failed to deliver, they should be moved on or exited. That, she argues, would give ministers real levers of power, not the illusion of control, but the reality of it. And this is where her despair deepens, because even if you give ministers those levers, you still need ministers willing and able to pull them. Powers reminds us that Keir Starmer once said that any time spent not focusing on the cost of living was a moment wasted. A perfectly reasonable sentiment in a country grappling with high prices and squeezed wages. And yet, Patillo pointed out Starmer rushed from a political cabinet meeting, excluding civil servants, to Paris for yet another summit, another international gathering, another set of handshakes, photo opportunities, and polite applause. The contradiction is glaring. On the one hand, Starmer says domestic issues must come first. On the other, he seems irresistibly drawn to the international stage. Patillo's assessment is cutting but calm. Starmer, he says, appears far more comfortable on foreign affairs than on anything else. Why? Because foreign affairs are easier on the ego. When you go abroad, Patillo notes, you're treated very nicely. Everyone is polite, everyone listens, everyone smiles. When you come home, everyone is absolutely beastly. The press, the opposition, the public, they all demand results. It's a devastatingly accurate observation. International summits are a comfort zone. Domestic reform is a battlefield. One involves speeches and statements, the other involves confrontation and consequence. And this feeds directly back into Jennifer Powers' despair, because reforming the British state is not glamorous. It doesn't come with grand backdrops or flattering communiques. It comes with rows, resistance, and reputational risk. You upset judges, you upset unions, you upset campaigners, you upset your own side. The question hanging in the air is simple. Does Keir Starmer have the appetite for that fight? So far, the evidence is thin. Powers sees a Prime Minister who understands that something is wrong, but not one who has fully accepted what fixing it would require. She sees caution where boldness is needed, management where leadership is required. And to be fair, this is not a uniquely Labour problem. Successive governments have complained about the same thing. The state is too slow, too rigid, too unresponsive. Ministers come and go, officials remain, policies are announced, outcomes barely budge. But what makes this moment different is the scale of the challenge. Britain is not just muddling through a quiet period. It's facing economic stagnation, strained public services, rising global instability, and a population that is losing faith in institutions. This is not the time for incrementalism masquerading as reform. The irony is that Starmer has often been praised for his seriousness, his lawyerly precision, his respect for institutions. But the very traits that make him look safe may be the ones that stop him being transformative. Jennifer Powers is pessimistic, not because she dislikes Starmer, but because she doesn't see evidence that he is willing to break the glass in case of emergency. Reforming the state means challenging assumptions that have calcified over decades. It means accepting short-term pain for long-term gain. It means risking popularity to restore effectiveness. And here's the political danger. If Starmer doesn't do it, someone else eventually will, and they may do it with far less restraint. History has a habit of punishing leaders who mistake stability for stasis. Voters can tolerate tough decisions if they believe those decisions lead somewhere. What they struggle with is drift, the sense that nothing really changes, no matter who's in charge. Bertillot's observation about foreign affairs being a comfort zone cuts deep because it hints at avoidance. When domestic reform feels overwhelming, the temptation is to look outward, to be seen on the world stage, to talk about global challenges, all important, yes, but not a substitute for fixing the plumbing at home. Jennifer Powers' despair is not melodramatic, it's analytical. It comes from recognizing that the window for meaningful reform doesn't stay open forever. Eventually, systems either adapt or collapse under their own weight. The British state, as currently configured, struggles to deliver. Everyone knows it, everyone complains about it. But knowing is not the same as doing, and doing requires a Prime Minister willing to endure being beastly treated at home in order to achieve something lasting. So far, Powers is not convinced Starmer is that person, and Bertillot's comments only reinforce that doubt. A leader more at ease abroad than at home may enjoy the job, but that doesn't mean he's doing the job that needs doing. The tragedy here is that the diagnosis is widely shared, the prescription is known, but the patient remains untreated. Britain doesn't need more speeches about values. It needs structural change, real accountability, clear lines of authority, and leaders prepared to use them. Whether Keir Starmer rises to that challenge remains an open question. For now, the mood among critics like Jennifer Powers is not hopeful, it's weary, and that, in politics, is often the most dangerous emotion of all. Thank you for watching British Mirror.